Every single day, you are standing at the gates of your next level, and the key that unlocks those gates is knowledge. You will never walk into the fullness of your destiny if you stay married to ignorance. Ignorance is not just a lack of information. It's a choice to remain in what's comfortable when what's possible is calling your name. What's calling you is greater than what's behind you. God placed something in you that this world has never seen before. But if your mind stays small, your calling will suffocate. If your heart remains closed, your gifts will go unnoticed. If you refuse to grow, you will abort the very purpose you were born to fulfill. And how do we grow? We educate ourselves every day, not once a week, not just in crisis, every day. Cannot pour into others when your well is dry. You cannot lead when your mind is stuck in yesterday's thinking. You were created to reign, to rise, to shift atmospheres. But you've got to train for your territory. Don't expect to run with lions if you've only trained in the cage. Every book you read, every lesson you absorb, every conversation you sit under becomes a brick in the building of your legacy. Some of you are praying for platforms you haven't studied for, crying for breakthroughs you haven't prepared to handle. You want elevation, but you must become educated enough to sustain it. Educating yourself isn't just about getting degrees. It's about expanding your thinking, stretching your capacity, and sharpening your discernment. You've got to know how to navigate rooms your feet haven't stepped in yet. You've got to study now for doors that will open 5 years from now. Because if you're not preparing, you're perishing. Every day you wake up, you have a divine appointment with wisdom. You can either ignore the call or answer it boldly. Turn your car into a classroom. Turn your waiting time into learning time. Turn your pain into purpose and your wounds into wisdom. Don't let your past be your professor. Let your hunger be your teacher. You can't control what others did to you. You can control whether or not you stay stuck because of it. And some of you, if you would just learn one new thing a day, your life would start shifting immediately. You're not too old, you're not too late, and you're not too far gone. You must decide that every day is a classroom and every breath is a chance to grow. When you educate yourself, silence the lies that said you couldn't make it. When you study, you dismantle the limits they placed on your name. When you grow, you heal the generations that came before you and prepare the generations that will follow. So dig deep. Read what challenges you. Listen to what stretches you. Sit in rooms that humble you, and never stop growing, because your next level is not waiting on your connections, it's waiting on your transformation. There is something powerful about the person who chooses to grow every single day, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, not just when pain forces it. Daily, intentionally, steadily, and purposefully. We live in a time where distractions compete for our attention. Social media floods our screens. Entertainment is endless, opinions are loud, yet in the midst of the noise, growth remains silent, subtle, and personal. It doesn't shout, but it shows. Truth is, if you are not growing, you are decaying. If you are not learning, you are becoming stagnant. If you are not being transformed daily, you are unknowingly conforming to the patterns around you. Every single day you wake up, you are given the gift of time, and what you do with that time determines the person you become. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't sneak up on you. It must be cultivated like a garden. You cannot expect fruit from a tree you never watered. You cannot demand results from a process you didn't commit to. Daily education is the water, the sunlight, and the tending of your inner garden. Some people think that learning stops after graduation, that once school ends, education ends. But real education isn't confined to a classroom. It's not sealed inside a textbook. Education is a lifestyle, not a diploma. It's found in books, in conversations, in life experiences, in prayer, in reflection, in mentorship. It's what you do when no one's grading you. It's who you become when no one's watching. Daily education isn't just about intellect. It's about alignment. You align your habits with your hopes. Your daily practices begin to match your divine purpose. You learn because your vision is bigger than your current capacity. You grow because where you're going requires a version of you that you haven't met yet. And that version can only be birthed through knowledge. You can't show up to battles you haven't trained for. You can't lead people when you haven't first led yourself through learning. You can't pour out wisdom if you've never sat down to be filled. Daily education is the discipline of the destined. It's the quiet, behind the scenes work that produces public breakthroughs. It's preparation for rooms you haven't entered, for problems you haven't encountered, miracles you haven't witnessed yet. Look around. The world is changing fast. Industries shift. Technology evolves. Culture adapts. And the one who refuses to learn is the one who will be left behind. You can have a calling and still miss your moment if you never grew into the person the calling required. You can be gifted but ineffective, talented but unprepared, available but uninformed. You can even be anointed but underdeveloped. That's why daily education is not optional. It's essential. Sharpens you. It humbles you. It reminds you that no matter how much you know, there's more to discover. True growth always keeps you teachable. Pride says, I already know. Wisdom says there's always more. When you educate yourself daily, you keep your soul in a posture of hunger, a readiness to be poured into, stretched, challenged, and changed. Daily education is also a form of warfare. Ignorance is a weapon used to keep generations in cycles. To break generational chains, you must increase your understanding. To shift your family's future, you must unlearn what limited you and relearn what liberates you. What you consume today becomes the fuel for tomorrow's freedom. What you learn daily becomes the legacy you leave behind. Don't underestimate what daily learning can do. 1 page a day turns into wisdom over years. 1 podcast a day turns into new mindsets. 1 hour of focused study becomes a lifestyle of excellence. And excellence attracts elevation. The greatest people didn't become great overnight. They became great through repeated choices to become better, 1 day at a time. There is power in momentum, and momentum is created by consistency. Consistency compounds. You may not see the results right away, but don't be deceived by the delay. The work you're doing in silence will announce itself in public. The world rewards those who outgrow their excuses, and the best way to silence doubt is to keep growing until your fruit speaks for itself. Growth doesn't mean perfection. It means progress. It means getting back up when you fall. It means pushing past fear to discover freedom. It means admitting what you don't know and being bold enough to go find out. It means you don't wait to be taught. You choose to be taught. You don't just follow inspiration. You follow instruction. What could your life look like if you committed to daily education for 1 year? What mindset would shift? What fear would lose its grip? What skill would be mastered? What version of you would emerge from the discipline of daily learning? You would be unrecognizable, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Daily education transforms how you see yourself. It shows you what's possible. It breaks limits. It builds courage. It wakes up the sleeping parts of your soul and calls them to attention. It trains you to see opportunities where others see obstacles. It tunes your ears to hear divine instruction. It increases your value in every space you step into. You cannot afford to be casual with your growth, because someone's deliverance is tied to your discipline. Someone's breakthrough is tied to your knowledge. Someone's hope is hidden in your wisdom. You were not created to remain average. You were created to evolve. Don't let today pass without learning something new. Read, study, ask questions. Watch the greats. Seek out truth. Listen deeply. Reflect honestly. You are responsible for your own becoming. Stop waiting to be taught. Start choosing to learn. Ignorance is no longer an excuse. It's a decision. In a world overflowing with access, opportunity, information, to remain uninformed is not an unfortunate condition. It is an active choice. And that choice has consequences. The cost of ignorance is high, not just in what you don't know, but in who you never become because of it. We must understand that purpose is not a passive phenomenon. It doesn't manifest just because you desire it. It doesn't unfold simply because you're gifted or anointed. Purpose is a path, and to walk it, you must be equipped. That equipping begins with knowledge, insight, wisdom, and understanding. When you remain in ignorance, you forfeit the very tools required to step into your divine assignment. You are sabotaging your own future by choosing not to grow, not to ask, not to seek, not to study. Ignorance is not innocence. It's not humble or harmless. It's not meekness. It's not the absence of pride. No, ignorance is a quiet killer. It erodes your discernment. It paralyzes your power, blinds your ability to make wise decisions. And the tragedy is that ignorance doesn't just impact you. It spills over into everything you touch. Your relationships, your children, your career, your finances, your ministry, your leadership. They all suffer under the weight of what you refuse to learn. Some people wear their ignorance like an identity. They build lives around assumptions instead of understanding. They make declarations without revelation. They chase influence without instruction. They want titles without training. But let me tell you something, you cannot conquer what you do not comprehend. You cannot rise in realms that require knowledge you're unwilling to pursue. Ignorance threatens purpose because purpose requires clarity, and clarity is born from education, both divine and practical. When you don't know who you are, you'll settle for what you're not. When you don't understand the value of your time, you'll waste it on things that don't matter. When you don't study the depths of your assignment, you'll perform it poorly, inconsistently, or never at all. Many people have dreams that will never see daylight because they refuse to learn what was necessary to bring them to life. Dream with no discipline is just a wish. A calling without preparation becomes a burden. You can't pray your way around the need to learn. You can't shout your way past the process of becoming informed. God will not give you a destiny you are not willing to grow into. Ignorance keeps you bound to cycles of defeat. It tricks you into believing that you're stuck when in reality you're just uninformed. There are answers out there. There are mentors, books, strategies, solutions, but you must be hungry enough to seek them. You must be humble enough to admit you don't know everything. Pride will keep you blind. But hunger for truth will lead you to freedom. Sometimes we protect our ignorance because it's comfortable. Growth requires work. Learning requires confrontation. It confronts your ego, your upbringing, your opinions, your pain. It forces you to unlearn patterns and mindsets you've grown attached to. But what's more dangerous, being uncomfortable for a season or being unfulfilled for a lifetime? Ignorance also gives the enemy an easy battlefield. When you don't know what's rightfully yours, you won't fight for it. When you don't know the power you carry, you'll hand it away without resistance. You don't know how to discern manipulation, you'll be led astray by charisma and charm. The enemy isn't afraid of your energy. He's afraid of your understanding. Because when you know better, you choose better. You move better. You lead better. You speak with authority. You walk in boldness. You have too much purpose in you to let ignorance be the ceiling to your calling. If you were created with greatness in mind, but that greatness must be developed. You were formed with intention, but that intention must be informed. You have gifts, but gifts can be wasted without knowledge. You have a future, but that future can be delayed, detoured, even destroyed if you choose to remain in darkness. The most powerful, impactful people are not the ones who knew it all from the start. They're the ones who became students of life. They asked questions. They sat under wisdom. They read, listened, studied, evaluated, and evolved. You can't evolve without exposure. And you can't be exposed to anything worthwhile if you're closed off by your own ignorance. Don't be loyal to what's killing your purpose. Don't defend limitations you've never questioned. Don't cling to broken ideologies just because they're familiar. Ignorance may feel safe, but it's actually a prison. It locks the mind. It numbs the soul, blinds the vision, and it weakens the will. You were not created to remain where you are. You were not created to be passive, silent, or confused. You were not created to be easily manipulated, misinformed, or stagnant. You were created to rise, to reign, to represent truth and purpose with strength. And to do that, you must commit to confronting what you don't know and learning what you must know. Purpose is weighty. It's sacred. Deserves your preparation. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't need to be perfect. But you do have to be willing. willing to grow, willing to challenge yourself, willing to stop pretending, willing to say, I don't know, I'm ready to learn. That willingness is the beginning of transformation. So I challenge you, no, I call you to make a new decision today. Choose knowledge over noise. Choose understanding over assumption. Choose truth over tradition. Choose growth over comfort. Choose your future over your fear. Every day you choose to educate yourself, you are choosing to protect your purpose. And every day you reject ignorance, you are walking closer to the highest version of who you were called to be. There's a cry rising up in the hearts of many. I'm ready to go higher. People want more visibility, more influence, more success, more abundance, more purpose, more impact. What many forget is this: you cannot rise where you are not ready. Elevation is not a random act of luck or favor. Elevation is a response to preparation. Everyone wants the mountain, but few are willing to climb. Everyone wants the crown, but few are willing to carry the cross that shapes the character to wear it. Truth is, you don't rise by desire alone. You rise by discipline. You rise by refinement. You rise by readiness. If you don't prepare, you won't be able to handle the weight of what you prayed for. Elevation will feel like a blessing to the onlooker, but to the unprepared, it becomes a burden. What's meant to be a breakthrough can become a breakdown if you don't build the capacity to carry it. Preparation expands that capacity. It deepens your roots before your branches ever reach the sky. It doesn't just reveal your potential, it also exposes your foundation. If your character is shaky, elevation will test it. If your identity is insecure, elevation will shake it. If your motives are impure, elevation will magnify them. That's why God, life, and time will often delay promotion, not because you're forgotten, because your foundation is still being fortified. Preparation is the backstage that precedes the spotlight. Many try to skip the process and go straight to the platform. But platforms are not places of transformation. They are places of revelation. They reveal who you already are. If you're not mature in private, you'll malfunction in public. That's why the quiet seasons matter. The unseen moments, the silent grind, the consistent study, the deep healing, all of it matters. There's a danger in rushing elevation. Some get pulled into positions too soon. Pressure crushes them. Doors can open before you're ready, and you'll walk in unarmed. You'll walk into boardrooms without strategy, into relationships without emotional maturity, into leadership without vision. The result: collapse, confusion, compromise. Preparation protects you, equips you. It strengthens your instincts. It gives you discernment. It teaches you how to manage success with humility and handle criticism with grace. It teaches you how to handle increase without arrogance and responsibility without fear. Elevation without preparation is a setup for disaster. It's like flying a plane you never learned how to land. Real preparation isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's stretching. It's repetitive. But it's holy. It's necessary. It's sacred. When you're in a season of preparation, it may feel like you're being overlooked, but you're actually being developed. God does his best work in the dark, in the silence, in the seasons where no one claps, in the places where it's just you and your assignment. Preparation is when you learn how to manage what you're asking for. You want financial increase, learn how to budget. You want leadership, learn how to follow. You want influence, learn how to serve. You want to write the book, lead the team, build the brand, shift the culture. Then get in the classroom of discipline. Get in the gym of repetition. Get in the temple of prayer and vision. Elevation requires more than excitement. It requires education, strategy, clarity, structure. You cannot pour out what you never filled. You cannot sustain what you never studied. And you cannot steward what you never sacrificed for. You must become a student of where you're going. Study your future like it's a test you can't afford to fail. Too often, people pray for increase but refuse to be stretched. You cannot remain the same and walk into new levels. Your old mindset won't fit your new season. Your old habits will choke your elevation. What got you here will not get you there. And if you're not willing to evolve, you'll end up bitter that others passed you, not because they were better, but because they were prepared. Preparation also gives you confidence. Enough. When you've trained, you don't second guess your skill. You don't fumble your identity. You don't apologize for your strength. You walk in with a knowing, not arrogance, but assurance. That confidence comes from knowing you've done the work. You've shown up daily. You've invested the time. You've studied. You've prayed. You've endured the hidden seasons without quitting. That kind of preparation makes you unshakable. Elevation is not the reward. The reward is becoming who you were meant to be through the process. Elevation is simply the reveal of that process. You become in private what you reveal in public. The years of study, the long nights, the inner healing, quiet sacrifices. That's where greatness is born. And when the spotlight comes, it will only magnify what you cultivated in the dark. You don't have to chase elevation. You don't have to manipulate your way into rooms. You don't have to beg for attention or force opportunity. All you have to do is become the version of you who is prepared. When you are prepared, doors open. When you are prepared, elevation finds you. It meets you in divine timing, and when it does, you'll be ready. So don't resent your preparation season. Don't despise the hiddenness. Don't rush the process. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. You are not being delayed. You are being developed. You are not stuck. You are being strengthened. Every day you wake up and prepare. You're making room for your next level. Every book you read, every skill you refine, every weakness you confront, every fear you face, every time you push through discipline when no one is watching, you are building the foundation that your future will stand on. And when the day of elevation comes, when the call arrives, when the door opens, when the opportunity presents itself, you won't need to scramble. You won't need to pretend. You won't need to fake it. You will be ready. In a world that changes by the minute, where knowledge becomes outdated overnight and emotional pressures are rising, one truth remains firm: self-education is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the daily investment into your evolution. It is the private discipline that leads to public transformation. And far beyond just acquiring new facts, self-education expands your mind, anchors your spirit, and fortifies your emotions. You cannot live a full life on a half-filled mind. You cannot carry great purpose with a weak spirit. And you cannot lead others when your emotions are out of control. Self-education is how you stretch your capacity to become what your calling demands. It is how you begin to rise, not just in status, but in strength. Let's start with the mind. Your mental capacity is the gateway to everything else. It's not about how many degrees you have. It's about how open you are to learn, how disciplined you are to focus, how humble you are to admit, I don't know. I will find out. But I will find out the mind is a battlefield. Every day, doubt, distraction, misinformation, and mediocrity are fighting for a place in your thoughts. When you educate yourself through books, learning, mentorship, reflection, you start to build walls against confusion and bridges toward clarity. Self-education trains your mind to think critically, to ask better questions, to separate emotion from principle, to filter truth from noise. Strong mind is not one that memorizes facts. It's one that can process, analyze, and apply wisdom. And that strength comes from the daily discipline of feeding your mind what it needs, not just what it wants. Most people spend hours feeding their bodies, but starve their minds. They scroll endlessly, but never study. They consume opinions, never seek truth. Your mental health is tied to your mental diet, and the moment you begin to take responsibility for what you feed your thoughts, you begin to change not just what you know, but who you are. Now consider your spirit. Self-education is spiritual discipline. When you pursue truth, when you seek out revelation, when you meditate on what uplifts your soul, you are watering your inner man. The spirit is not strengthened through noise. It's strengthened through intentional stillness, reflection, learning, and revelation. You cannot walk in spiritual authority without understanding spiritual truths. You cannot claim peace without understanding the principles that sustain it. Spiritual capacity isn't about how loud you pray or how much you quote scripture. It's about how deeply you understand what you believe. It's about alignment. Education in spiritual matters opens your eyes to eternal truths. It helps you discern seasons. It prepares you for warfare. It teaches you to recognize the hand of God even in dark places. It increases your capacity to carry purpose without burning out. Without it, you become spiritually shallow, reacting instead of responding, following feelings instead of truth. Self-education in your spiritual life builds wisdom, anchors you in seasons of uncertainty. It reminds you of your identity when fear tries to rewrite your name. It empowers you to pray with precision, to lead with humility, to serve with joy. It's not just reading, it's revelation. It's not just memorizing, it's internalizing. When you study spiritual principles, you are literally arming yourself for the battles you didn't even know were coming. Then there is the emotional dimension, often neglected but incredibly vital. Self-education builds emotional capacity by helping you understand yourself. It gives you language for your wounds. It helps you manage what used to control you. The more you learn about your inner world, your triggers, your traumas, your patterns, your personality, the more power you gain over your reactions. Education around emotional intelligence teaches you how to sit with discomfort without becoming destructive. It helps you love others without losing yourself. It gives you tools to process grief, regulate anxiety, navigate disappointment, and restore peace. Emotional strength is not found in denying your feelings, it's found in understanding them and mastering them. Self-education in emotional health also helps you lead better. You can't expect to build strong teams, relationships, families if you haven't first built emotional discipline within yourself. A person who leads without emotional growth will eventually lead with anger, fear, insecurity, or ego. But a person who's emotionally aware leads with grace, wisdom, and strength. That kind of leader doesn't just survive storms, they guide others through them. When you educate yourself in all three areas, mental, spiritual, and emotional, something powerful happens. Your capacity expands. You stop breaking under pressure. You start bending without snapping. You learn how to carry more without collapsing, because now you are not just surviving life, you are trained for it. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger, and the stronger you get, the higher you can go. Every great assignment requires great capacity. God's not give you purpose according to your comfort. He gives it according to your capacity. If you want to walk in greater purpose, greater authority, greater impact, then you must grow in your capacity to carry it all. And self-education is the training ground for that growth. You may not control what you were taught. You may not control your past, your upbringing, your environment. But you do control your hunger. You do control your effort. You do control your discipline. And if you choose to learn every day, even in small steps, you are rewriting your future. You are not too old to learn. You are not too late to grow. You are not too broken to rebuild. Your destiny is not behind you. It is waiting for the equipped, expanded version of you to show up, and that version is built through the daily decision to educate yourself. Self-education is how you respect your calling. It's how you steward your time. It's how you prepare for elevation, for breakthrough, for leadership, for legacy. Don't wait for someone to teach you. Teach yourself. Don't wait for doors to open. Prepare for them. Don't wait until crisis forces growth. Choose growth now. Because the most powerful version of you, mentally sharp, spiritually grounded, emotionally stable, is not born through convenience. It is forged through the daily discipline of self-education. Time has a way of whispering lies. It tells you you've missed your moment. Too many years have passed, that your window of opportunity has closed, that others are younger, faster, smarter, and somehow more worthy of what you once dreamed. It tells you to settle, to shrink, to surrender. But let me speak life into that lie. You are never too late to grow. Growth is not limited to youth. Destiny does not expire with age. Purpose is not a prize reserved for the early bloomers. Growth is a choice, and it is available to you as long as you have breath in your body. No matter your age, background, history, or failures, there is still room for you to evolve. The truth is, growth doesn't run on a clock. It doesn't operate on society's timeline. The world may applaud the fast, but heaven honors the faithful. And if you are willing to humble yourself, to commit, to learn, to stretch, you can still become everything you were created to be, not despite your age or your setbacks, because of them. Life is not a straight line. It delays, it surprises, it detours. But every delay is not a denial. Every detour is not a dead end. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually a setup for a deeper version of your destiny. Because maturity births depth, pain births wisdom, time births perspective. And perspective is what allows your growth to take root and last. You might look around and feel behind. You might compare your progress to someone else's highlight reel. But hear this, you're not late. You're being refined. The work that happens in silence, the transformation that happens behind closed doors, the lessons you've learned through experience, that's not wasted time. That's preparation. That's soil. That's where real growth begins. It's easy to celebrate someone who's young and rising. Don't discount the person who's older and rising again. That takes courage. That takes strength. It takes humility to say, I don't know everything, and boldness to begin again, to go back to school, to start the business, to write the book, to rebuild your faith, to heal your heart, to learn the language, to try again at love. That kind of growth is rare, but it is possible. Sometimes the most dangerous mindset isn't doubt, it's delay. You keep telling yourself someday, and that someday becomes years. But the truth is, there is no perfect time to start growing. The right time is now. And no matter how long you've waited, your future still wants you. Your purpose still needs you. There are still doors that only you can walk through. Still people that only you can reach. Still breakthroughs that only your obedience can unlock. Don't fall into the trap of believing that growth has an expiration date. Don't disqualify yourself because of a number, a mistake, or a missed opportunity. Life is full of redemption stories, and yours can be one of them. As long as you're willing to grow, life will meet you with grace. Growth also looks different at every stage. When you were younger, growth may have looked like ambition. Now, it may look like peace. Before, it may have meant achieving. Now, it might mean healing, but it is still growth. Maturity doesn't always move fast, but it moves deep. And sometimes, the quietest growth is the most powerful. The most transformational. It's never too late to change your mindset, to break the cycles, to forgive, to start therapy, to make amends, to unlearn the patterns that held you hostage for years. You can reclaim time. You can rebuild trust. You can rewrite the narrative. You have to make a decision to grow, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it takes time, even if no one else believes it's possible. There are people in their 60s going back to college, people in their 70s starting ministries, people in their 80s publishing their first books, people healing from decades of trauma and finally finding joy. There are men and women who waited 10, 20, even 30 years to walk into their purpose, and it was worth every moment. Because growth doesn't ask how old you are, it asks how willing you are. There's a lie that says, if it hasn't happened by now, it never will. But that lie is rooted in fear, not faith. And growth is an act of faith. It says, I believe in who I can become more than I fear who I've been. It says, my future deserves more than my excuses. It says, there is still life left in me, so there is still purpose working through me. Don't count yourself out just because others don't count you in. Don't lower your expectations because you've been disappointed. And don't quiet your calling because someone told you it was too late. It's not. It never was. Growth is not reserved for the perfect. It's available to the willing. And when you grow at a later stage, you bring with you all the wisdom, the resilience, the perspective, and the strength you didn't have before. You don't grow as a blank slate. You grow as someone who's been through the fire and lived to tell the story. Someone who knows what's real, what matters, and what's worth fighting for. So if you're wondering whether it's too late, let this be your reminder. No time is ever wasted when you choose to grow. No step is ever useless when it's taken in faith, and no life is ever too far gone to be transformed by a decision to begin again. You are still capable, still worthy, still chosen, still valuable. You may not be where you thought you'd be, but you are not finished, not forgotten, not too late. There is still more for you. Start where you are. With what you have, learn something new. Do something different. Make peace with your past. Build something beautiful from your pain. Don't rush the process, because this time your growth is not just about achievement, it's about becoming whole. So stand tall, lift your head, square your shoulders, and take the first step toward becoming who you were always meant to be. Because you're never too late to grow, and this is only the beginning. You are not just one person living one life. You are a chain link in a lineage, bridge between the past and the future, a carrier of legacy, history, and possibility. Every decision you make, especially the decision to grow, has ripple effects that reach far beyond your lifetime. Your growth doesn't end with you. Your growth changes generations. This truth is both humbling and powerful. You are not growing just for yourself. You are growing for those who will come after you. You are growing for those who were never given the opportunity. You are growing for your children, for your family, for your community, and for the unborn voices whose stories have not yet begun. Every time you choose to become better, you widen the path for others to walk in freedom. We often think of growth as a personal achievement, and in part it is. It feels good to rise, to improve, to overcome. But real growth isn't selfish, it's sacred, it's generational, it's transformative. When you heal, you interrupt the cycle of inherited pain. When you learn, you become the teacher that your bloodline needed. When you evolve, you shift the atmosphere for your family's future. Many of us are carrying the weight of choices we didn't make, beliefs we didn't choose, wounds we didn't ask for. But we still have the power to transform what we've been given. You may not have inherited peace, but you can cultivate it. You may not have grown up in wisdom, but you can pursue it. You may not have been taught how to grow, but you can decide that it ends with you. You don't have to be perfect to impact a generation. You just have to be committed. Committed to becoming more, to breaking patterns, to building something new. Because what you don't confront, your children will inherit. What you avoid, the next generation will repeat. But when you face it, when you fight for growth, you choose discipline over comfort and truth over tradition, you open a door that others didn't even know existed. That's how powerful your growth is. It doesn't just inspire, it liberates. It teaches others what's possible. It expands their vision of what life can be. When someone sees you grow emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, it gives them permission to dream beyond survival. Your growth becomes a blueprint, a testimony, a living reminder that it's never too late and always worth it. Growth is contagious when it's rooted in truth. When you grow, you don't just pass down possessions, you pass down perspective. You teach your children how to think, how to love, how to believe, how to persevere. You model resilience. You model wholeness. You show them that it's okay to feel, to heal, to be honest, to be excellent, to be human. You may not realize it, but someone is always watching you. Someone is learning how to live by observing how you navigate life. That's not pressure, that's purpose. You get to be the one who breaks the silence, who builds the bridge, who turns pain into wisdom, and wisdom into legacy. You get to be the first, and the first is rarely the easiest. But the first is always the most necessary. It's a heavy thing to carry, the weight of changing a family tree, but you were born for it. You are not weak. You are not random. You are not average. You are the answer to the prayers your ancestors didn't know how to pray. You are the manifestation of survival, of faith, of endurance. And now, you get to choose, will you just survive or will you grow? Because when you grow, you start building something that lasts beyond your years. Generational impact isn't always loud. It's found in the daily choices, choosing patience over anger, wisdom over impulse, education over ignorance, kindness over control, truth over denial. It's found in becoming the parent, the friend, the leader, the example you never had. It's found in teaching your family how to love and live with integrity, joy, and purpose. Hear this. Generational impact isn't limited to those with children. Legacy isn't defined by bloodline alone. It's defined by influence. You can mentor, you can lead, you can inspire, you can create. Whether it's nieces and nephews, students, neighbors, your community, someone is being shaped by your presence, your words, your growth. Never underestimate the power of your transformation. The addiction you broke could be the freedom your family needed. The healing you saw could be the peace your grandchildren live in. The book you write could shift someone's entire perspective. The business you build could employ people for years to come. Your obedience creates a future that others get to enjoy. This is why growth must be intentional. It's not just about being better for your own benefit. It's about laying the foundation for something eternal. Something that doesn't die when you do. Something that echoes long after your name is spoken. Growth is how you plant trees under whose shade you may never sit. And yes, it's hard. It takes effort to unlearn. It takes vulnerability to heal. It takes humility to admit you've been living beneath your potential. But the reward is worth it. The reward is seeing lives change, seeing your children become emotionally whole, seeing your family restored, seeing strangers inspired by your courage, seeing communities strengthened by your character. And perhaps the greatest reward of all is knowing this: you didn't just live, you grew. You didn't just take up space, you made space for others. You didn't just survive what tried to break you. You used it to build something greater. You are not just living for today, you are building for tomorrow. Every lesson you learn, every truth you walk in, every step you take forward, it all matters. It matters to people you may never meet, to generations you may never see. You are creating a legacy of growth, so grow boldly. Grow intentionally. Grow with the awareness that your transformation is holy work, that your evolution is impacting lives beyond your imagination. Your decision to grow is healing a bloodline, strengthening a foundation, and birthing a future full of hope.